Can the sound of your voice actually change the way that your audience responds to your message? We'll talk about that in a moment.
Welcome to the Brand Telling Podcast, where we share secrets, systems, and strategies you can use to unleash the power of story to build and grow your brand. The Brand Telling Podcast is brought to you by the award-winning team at Communication Strategy Group, bringing a combined 50-plus years of publishing, agency, and client strategy, creative, and tactical marketing experience. Please welcome your hosts, Principal and Chief Brand Teller Arthur Germain and Creative Director Michael Simbram.
Hey, this is Arthur Germain on the podcast. Today, my guest is Cynthia Zhai. Cynthia is a voice coach, a speaker, and an author. She's helped business professionals and professional speakers from 46 countries across 5 continents with their voice to speak with impact and conviction. She helps them engage and inspire people to embrace change and take action. And we're really excited to have her here on the podcast. And we spoke, me in New York and Cynthia in Singapore. Let's take a listen. So, Cynthia, welcome to the podcast.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Tell me and tell our audience a little bit about your background and about your focus on voice.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am a voice coach. And what is a voice coach? It is that I help people, professionals, to speak with a more powerful and authoritative voice so that when they are speaking, they can be heard. They can be seen as the expert in the field that they are good at. And my background is I was in singing when I was in schools. And I also did some radio in schools. So that's where I first got in touch with voice. When I graduated, and I learned with some voice actors about voices. And even then, I didn't know that voice was the area that I wanted to do. It was many people, when I was in my last job, which was in leadership training, communication training as well, and people were asking me about the voice. They said, oh, how do we develop our voice as a leader? So that's where I realized, okay, this is something that people are looking for. So that's where I got into the voice.
I think that's fascinating. You know, we focus a lot on telling a story to show how a brand impacts its customers. But I hadn't really thought so much about just how the individual voice, the way that somebody is telling the story, can have so much impact as well. So maybe you could talk. I had the opportunity to watch a terrific TEDx talk that you gave, and you outlined
Thank you.
some great information about how the voice reflects everything about a person. And there were a couple of things that you said you can that the voice can show. Maybe you could take us through a couple of those things.
Mm-hmm. Okay, sure. Yeah, because a lot of my clients, they are business leaders and they need to tell stories as well. So when we work on their voices, it includes the way they're telling their stories. One of the things that voice reflects, people probably can relate to easily, is when they are nervous, their voice will be trembling. So this nervousness is shown in their voices. So it could be trembling. It could be that their pace suddenly goes faster or their pitch goes high. So that's one very direct way that we see how what's happening in our body, in our mind, is showing up in the voice. So that's one. And then 2 is that some of the leaders, they will be speaking in this way. And when they're speaking in this way, that it shows that they're giving people the impression that they are not very open and they don't want to talk.
So they're kind of closed off in their voice.
That's right. That's right. You very often see that in the leaders. Well, they don't realize that, but that's where when we're working on their voices, then they realize, oh, I give people the impression that I'm closing off. I don't want to talk. But even though sometimes that was the fact that they did not want to talk, but it is showing up in their voices.
Right. We've done media training with folks, and we say never use the phrase that they've got no comment, because yes, no comment often just means you've just agreed to whatever it was that somebody asked you. You're like, no comment means yes, absolutely. So you have to watch what you say there.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard when you were talking, you talked about kind of these three things that I loved: kind of the current state, the past state, and the future state.
Yes.
That may not be how you put it, but that was what I had heard you discussing. I was really interested in that idea of the future state, of who you can become through your voice. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yes. So it is what I said was that the voice can reflect our past, present, and potential. So the potential is where that, because every one of us, even though that we are with different personalities, but they are potential in every personality. So when I'm hearing them first, that for my clients, the more I talk with them, the more I listen to them, the more I understand their personality, and I hear the personality coming through the voice. And that's where also I will be able to see the potential. For example, some people, when I listen to them, they have a lot to offer. They have so much they can offer to their company, offer to the world. But because of their current voice problem, they were not able to reach that level. And so that's the potential that I can help them develop.
That's fantastic.
Through their voice.
So could you give us an example of somebody that you may have helped who is really being limited by their voice?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So a client of mine, he was the expert in their company. He said, I know everything, how this system runs. Probably I'm the only one who knows how it runs in my company. And everyone should come to me for advice or for knowledge. But the sad truth was that no one came to him. And even though that his boss knew that he was capable. So his boss actually asked him to do some training on those technical knowledge. But whenever he was speaking, people's attention just drifted away. So he was very frustrated. And then he was thinking in his head that you should all be listening to me. But most of them, they had to stay there because they have nowhere else to go for that 1 hour. And so that's where we started to work on his voice, because he has the potential. His potential is that he is the expert, and we want to have the voice reflect that. So then we started to work on his voice, and one is to make the voice sound more powerful, more authoritative, so that it matches his authority in the field. And then at the same time, we also worked on his voice to speak in a way that can capture and keep people's attention. So before we even finished working together, and he started to realize that when he was speaking, and people started paying attention. Not only that, after he finished his training, and sometimes in the audiences there are new people. And then they came up to him and said, oh, this is so valuable, and we learned a lot. And those feedback went to his boss, and then his boss started to promote him. even though he was promoted in terms of position, but not the salary in the beginning. So Then later on, half a year later, that his boss told him, his boss said, I know that you are capable. I am negotiating for you in terms of salary. Don't leave the company.
And that's a really common story. I think that a lot of my audience is aware of. A lot of my audience are marketing directors and VP marketing, and they work with what we call the SMEs, the subject matter experts. And very often, one of the challenges is, as you just said, the subject matter expert is the person who is really the expert, who really understands perhaps the one thing that the company does. They know the best, but they have so much difficulty in sharing that. And sometimes it's not a difficulty in actually telling what it is. It's just a difficulty in holding the attention of the people they need to tell. We've all sat through those webinars, haven't we, where the subject matter expert sounds like this and they are talking and you are wondering if it's recorded. It's just that kind of a robotic voice.
Yes.
Is there something that people can do themselves? Is there a way to listen to themselves? I know people often say, "Oh, I hate listening to myself. I hate how my voice sounds," but then they don't do anything about it. Is there an exercise or something that we can do?
Yeah. So first of all, that when my clients told me that, oh, I don't like to listen to my voice, and I have recorded it. Now you listen.
Exactly.
I said, if you hate it, that means that people around you, can you imagine how much and how long they have been suffering?
Oh, now I'm starting to think I have to listen to myself on these podcasts to see what I sound like.
You sound good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. And
so just the idea of recording then and listening to yourself more frequently, that's a good exercise for people who are subject matter experts then.
Yes, that's right. Because I said, if you want to know how people are receiving you, you must first listen to yourself, and then you understand.
When I listen to you during that TEDx talk that I mentioned, and I'll share the link to that when we post this podcast. I'll share the link in LinkedIn. But that TEDx talk, I thought there was a part of that I thought was very remarkable. At one point, you wanted to give an example of a person who was closed off and a person who kind of got into a thin voice or a head voice. And what I thought was remarkable is you literally sounded like someone else. I closed my eyes and I thought there's somebody else different on the stage there for a moment. You really mimicked, I think, what I hear a lot from people, especially, I don't know if it's when they're nervous or when they're just trying to talk, but I hear it a lot in a group that people go up in that head voice and they start to talk like this. They go really, really high. And I thought you captured that remarkably well there. Why do people shift to that kind of voice? Why do you find that people do that?
One is that the nervousness and the stress. So when there is nervousness or there's stress, where most people experience, then that the body becomes tense. When the body becomes tense, then voice, which is vibration, the vibration will be limited. So that's the reason that people will be sounding in that way. And that is also the reason that when we are working on the voice, we not only just work on breathing, work on creating resonance, but also we work on releasing those tension, releasing those stress.
That makes sense. I know for people who meditate, that they often will say that once they've meditated, then come out of a meditation period, that when they're relaxed, even their voice just has a whole different timbre to it.
Yes. And you will also look different. So this is my 1.5 year into meditation. I had heard of meditation for a long time, but I didn't start until 1.5 years ago. And when I started, I remember that there was one day I had meditation in the morning. And then after that, I went to a meeting. And it was a association meeting. And people saw me. They said, "What happened to you?" I said, I don't know. I'm just here. And then a few of them who said this to me. So after that, I was thinking, what is it that I did different? And then I realized, oh, I did meditation in the morning. And after that, I was talking to another friend who also practiced meditation. She said sometimes after her meditation, she would be looking herself into the mirror and she could see the difference.
And hear the difference.
Yes, yes.
Another thing that you've mentioned, there's a phrase or a term that we often use in marketing. We often talk about capturing the buyer persona, and we often talk about that in terms of some of the demographics and the psychographics of the people that we're selling to, and we list it. But I hadn't thought about it before, but maybe you could talk about what does even the word persona mean for you, and
Yes.
and talk about why that's important.
Yeah, because most people didn't realize that the way we are speaking reflects who we are, our personality. So that's actually how the word persona comes about. So persona means that per through sound. So per personality through sound, which is in the ancient times that when people are playing different roles, that they don't have all those makeup like today. So they will be wearing a mask. And and also interestingly, most of the times that in the ancient time, the mask, some of them, they were made out of wood. So that's why you don't see this person. You don't see anything. You only see a wood mask. So we identify the different characters by their voice. And so that's where the word persona, personality through sound, which is so true even today, that the way we're speaking still reflects our personality, even though there are times that we don't want people to hear who we are, but it is still reflects that. For example, if I'm speaking in this way, and this is how I'm sounding all the time, if I speak in this way, what kind of impression would you get from this person just by the voice?
Probably you're, that you're. I could tell you're educated, but maybe a little pedantic in the way that you have that kind of a clipped, part of the voice there.
Yeah, so you will find that this person is as if this person is a little bit angry at all times.
Okay.
And also there is a lot of force in the voice. So when there's a lot of force in the voice, which means this person probably is very strong in his or her own point of view.
Right.
And when they are doing things, they are not very relaxed, which is the case that in many of my clients who are using a lot of force in their voice, they are very tense, and it is very challenging for them to feel relaxed. Not easy to let go.
I think we see that in a lot of politicians when they're speaking, that that they sound like they're shouting, and they're tense from the moment they begin speaking, and there's no relaxation in the voice. And it's interesting to see them when they are then interviewed later. There's like an entire shift. There's a more relaxed setting when they're sitting down, maybe had a sip of coffee, and an interviewer speaks with them, and you say, wow, this is a different person than who I just saw on the stump a moment ago.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your business, and how can our listeners contact you, and what kind of work could they do with you?
Sure. They can. One is, they can watch the TEDx talk, which will give them really a very in-depth view into our voice, because our voice is really much, much more than just a tool we use to speak, to convey information. So that's one. And then two is they can also, if they want to learn more and more in-depth knowledge about how do they develop their voice, they can go to my 3-part free video lessons where I explained step by step how they can develop their voices. So the 3-part free video lessons is bit.ly/voice crash course.
That's great. So bit.ly/voice crash course.
Yes. And
Terrific.
then, of course, they can go to my YouTube channel where I update and upload new videos regularly. So right now we have, I think it's 35.7 K subscribers.
That's great. That's great. And of course, they can find you at your website at powerfulexecutivevoice.com.
Yes.
That's great. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for talking with us about the power of the voice and, improving the voice. And I encourage, all of our listeners to take a look at your website at powerfulexecutivevoice.com and especially watch that TED Talk. I really found that, to be a fascinating way to think about voice and the impact that voice has on your brand story.
Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you.
Build a better brand story for your business. Schedule a complimentary consultation with the brand tellers at Communication Strategy Group. Send a note to contact-us@gocsg.com or visit us at communicationstrategygroup.com/contact.